Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Soul Connections Conversations episode. I am Teresa Echaide, your host and creator of this series. This is a gathering space where we share our spiritual journeys and our soul's connections, purpose, and gifts. We're weaving a spiritual community here. On my spiritual journey, I have met so many wonderful soul sisters and brothers that are soul connections, wonderful souls that have helped me, guided me, and taught me, and above all, connected at a deep soul level. I'm honored, happy, and excited to bring them into this circle to share their stories with us. And today we have my beautiful friend, Jillian Wiinters. Hi, Jillian.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, thank you for being here, coming from Vermont. Jillian is a warm and playful human being exploring the intersection of mental health, creative expression, spirituality, and nature. She's a licensed counselor, gardener, and an artist. She grew up in the suburbs of Houston, Texas, among pine trees and Gulf Coast waters, and has lived and traveled many places. Now she resides in northern Vermont on 19 acres of land that includes a maple forest, pond, and a garden. She spends her time connecting to the land she now stewards, working with clients, and learning how to can vegetables. That sounds so dreamy, my friend. I love it.
It sounds dreamy to me too. Wow.
I know,
I
this is
do
great.
that.
Oh, can't wait to go visit you some of these on the fall. I would love to see fall weather in the,
Yeah.
the beauty of the autumn and, especially up there, like I know everything must be turning yellow, red, orange.
I'd love to have you up here anytime. It's actually starting to turn right now. It's starting to
Nice.
look
Yeah.
jewelly. Yeah.
Yeah. Fall is here like next week. So perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here and doing this. My old friend, we go back, we'll talk about that. But yes, it's always been such an amazing journey traveling together and just, keeping up what we're doing in different places of the world doing different things, but it's an amazing soul connection. That's why we're here.
Yes. I've always been so grateful for you. We met in Teo, which you're probably going to talk about.
Yeah.
And I just felt immediately like I had a good soul friend right there with me. And there was a lot of laughter and a lot of like work too. We worked there as well. But
Yeah.
I was just so grateful you attended.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So let's start at the beginning to share about yourself. Like, share what was your growing up like in Houston and your childhood, and what significant stories do you think have contributed to your interest in the spirit world?
Sure. Yeah, so I grew up in Texas in the suburbs of Houston. And I had a father who was musical and very funny and lively. And then I had a mother who had an interest in like the mystical and the spiritual. So she kind of showed me some books when it was time for me to start reading. So that kind of kicked off my journey. And then I had this father who would play, it just filled the house with music. And he played the drums in a band and sang. And so like rhythm was also a big part of my upbringing. And I was told that I was really curious and really talkative as a child. Maybe I kind of got into a little trouble that way too, whatever that means, whatever that meant at the time. And well, I just remember one story because I vaguely have the memory of it, but also it was told to me that my family visited a park, and it was a park with a lake, and I think we were gonna hang out and have a picnic, and there was trash there. Yeah, it was just sort of a lot to make a difference, and I just remember I couldn't start playing. I didn't want to start playing until I picked up the trash. And so I got like a plastic bag, and I think at some point the adults started helping too. But that was just really important to me on that day, and we did clean up that area of the park, and then I moved on, and yeah. So yeah, I think stewardship was a big part of my upbringing, and a reverence for rhythm and nature, and spirituality. It got instilled pretty early in me. Like a lot of children, I think a lot of children are in tune to things like nature and spirituality.
Wow, how wonderful and fortunate that your parents were there to present these opportunities to you. Oh, that's wonderful. I know it's like that's I think that's our role as a parent and as a leader to, steward the land and, like teach children to continue to do this with us, not just so I love it. I love it that you had that experience. And so you started pretty early on your spiritual path. And can you share a little bit more of I don't know if you had a major event that was kind of like the catalyst for your spiritual awakening, and what other kind of events or challenges that kind of you had to navigate?
How much time do you have? Because I've got a lot. Well, yeah, I'll pick some highlights. Um, yeah, it feels like I was super connected to spirituality as a child, and that was very like a natural state. I feel like that kind of started to get covered over as I went into junior high, and it became important to like belong and fit in, and those kinds of messages started rolling in. And so I feel like a lot of that got covered over when some other goals and priorities started showing up in my world. But I do remember, well, there's a series of awakenings that I've had. Probably like many people, they've come spontaneously. And like a lot of people, they might have come out of challenges too. So I'm remembering one that was natural, just completely spontaneous. And it happened near the ocean in one of my favorite places. It's this part of Texas called Port Aransas. And it used to be an old fishing town. It's very touristy now. My family's been going there for, I want to say, over 2 decades, my mom's side of the family. And we were staying in a condo where there wasn't enough room for everybody. So I had to sleep on the balcony. And so I pulled up, two of those plastic chairs you can imagine. I was a smaller child, or I was 13. So that was possible for me to just sort of put two chairs together and grab some pillows and a blanket. And I think my cousin slept out there with me too. And so I remember waking up in the middle of the night and just being profoundly impacted by the night sky and the stars being reflected on the water. So we could see the beach and the water. And then I was able to go back to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning, and again, there was this pastel orange and red sunset, and it just impacts me every time I think of it, reflected again off of the light blue water. And I was just mesmerized by this scene. And I just knew that in some way, I didn't have the words for it, but I just knew the earth loves us, and the earth, we're just a part of it. We're not separate from this really great big planet, and that the spirit of this planet. And that moment just rolls with me everywhere I go. And I don't live near the water now, but I feel like I carry the water with me. I paint the water. I might have I paint the water. I wear shells and things like that. I feel like the water comes with me wherever I go. So that was maybe a beginning of an awakening. It was a deep knowing. And then I had another awakening that I could talk about that comes from a place of challenge. Without going into the whole story, I could, because there's so many moments of synchronicity along with it. So I was preparing for my vision quest. So I did a vision quest with the Earth Tribe, and we can totally get into that. It's a year-long preparation where, at least the way I prepare, everything on the path, everyone you meet, everything that happens is a part of the awakening, is a part of the
I was
vision.
part of that because we did it together.
Yes. Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, you were there for that. Yes. So a few months before the vision quest that we did, I was skiing on the mountain near where I lived in Boise, Idaho, and I fell and I broke my leg. And I knew at that moment like something big had happened. I didn't know I had broken my leg yet. But the first person down notified the people I was with. The second person down was a doctor who gave me her hand warmers and said, this is what to expect. You're going to do this. They're going to take you here. And she just gave me the whole lay of the land, exactly what was going to happen. And then she skied on. And then the third person down was my partner, who was in a separate group. And so when he showed up, I was like, wow, this is horrible. And also I really feel taken care of in this process. And so I broke my leg. I had to have emergency surgery that day. And part of my healing was, this was after the medication had worn off. So I don't attribute this to any kind of pain pills that I took. But I felt this for about 2 days. I felt this state of grace. That's the only words that I could put to it, where I felt connected in relationship with everything. I was in relationship to water. I was in relationship to my cats and to anybody I saw like driving down the street. And so that was a very profound realization coming from this place of stillness, that we are not alone, we are all connected. And sometimes our minds might get in the way of this very beautiful connection to everything around us. And so that was another awakening that I had to process a little bit later, because it lasted for about 2 days. I didn't really understand what was going on. I was also in profound pain, so I would cry when I needed to cry. I would giggle maybe about 2 seconds later at something. It was just such an innocent state of being and surrender, because I had to be still and I had to allow other people to help me. So yeah, that was a really profound awakening. And again, a deep knowing of that we are all connected and that we are all kind of innocent in a way. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, sometimes, like you said, these things happen for you. Like the slowing down, I think we can relate that if you're like going, and sometimes something happens like that and really physically slow you down because you couldn't even walk, right? You had to sit there. And sometimes, I know for me, from experience, it could be really hard to allow others to help and take care of us, and having that kind of vulnerability, of wow, okay, I cannot do this. I need to be open to receiving. So maybe, I'm sure there's a lot that came into your awareness about receiving and be taken care of, or just the stillness of it and preparing you for the vision quest, which that's what it is. It's just a lot of stillness, time to reflect, disconnect from your regular day-to-day life. And so it was all in preparation and in divine timing for you.
Yes, absolutely. I so see it that way. And yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. I really do feel like I have an embodied awareness of what stillness actually is. And I didn't really before um, really know what stillness was for me. And then after that experience where I have no choice but to be still most of the time, I really got to tap into that.
Yeah, there's always a gift on amidst those challenges, if you are open to receiving that. Yeah. So let's gear into a little bit our connection, and let's see if we can dive into all that fun stuff that we came to do together. And we connected to the Earth Tribe from Texas, as you mentioned, but we met in Teotihuacan, Mexico. It was a Day of the Dead experience. I believe it was 2015 or something like that. Yeah, that's how we met in person, and we were roomies. Yeah, yes.
Yay! I'm so glad that that worked out that way.
I know, and that was like and it all happens for a reason. Like I said, I was not living in Texas and live in California. From my side, what it was, I was Googling things. It was the beginning of my spiritual awakening, and I was like, I need some kind of sense of community. And I was looking, and I came across Don Miguel Ruiz books and Heather Ashamara. And I Googled things, and it was happening that this retreat for the Day of the Dead, Heather Ashamara was there. And it was perfect because I needed that to grieve my mom's death from like 20 years prior to that. And it was like an eye-opening experience, like deeply spiritual. And that's how we also found our names for each other. I am Hummingbird because love the hummingbirds, Colibri. And you are
Mariposa.
Butterfly, the beautiful butterfly. So that's how we always call each other. Hello, butterfly, mariposa. Oh yeah, I love it. So yeah, you wanna share a little bit of how that experience was? Because I know I went back once, I did twice, and you did the 4 full years of it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm happy to share about that. And I started going in 2014, and I went 4 years in a row. Um, and I was invited to teach the yoga as part of the morning practice, which was um, which was fun and also challenging because I felt like I had to do it perfectly. And I was in this space of I really got to like look like I know what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, I so as I was saying before, I kind of realized that in junior high, high school, and a little bit beyond, a lot of my spirit got covered over because I had these other priorities of like fitting in and belonging and looking a certain way to achieve goals. Or I thought I had to in order to be a leader or a therapist, that I've got to appear a certain way. So going to Teo was so important to me because that was the beginning of a reawakening and a connecting to this part of me that it knew how to be connected to everything, that it knew that the earth loves and holds us all in a very embodied way. And so meeting Heather Ashamara and meeting you and just being in that community of people that are just so grounded. I mean, they might not be talking about any spiritual topic. They might be like, "What'd you have for lunch?" That's good. And it was just such a natural group of people to be with. I felt like I could be myself. I could be my authentic self and show up. I felt like I could be giggly. I could be serious. I could be quiet. I could offer an insight. It was a wonderful process of initiation that felt new and old at the same time to me. One of my favorite parts, one of my absolute favorite parts is, so it's around the time of the Day of the Dead. So there's emphasis on ancestors, and there's also this emphasis on like dying practice, letting go practice, I could say, surrendering. And there is, I think we did it 2 or 3 times in Teo, different years, where we practice meeting the angel of death. I want to say that in Mexican culture, that her name is La Muerta, or La Muerte. Please correct me if I have that mixed up. And we cross the bridge and we get personally ready to let go of everything. That's sort of the inner task there. So outer task where we're walking across the bridge together. And there are, I think maybe 4 people volunteering to hold space as the angel of death. And it's this beautiful practice where you're giving up, you're letting go of everything, even the stuff that you like about your life. Letting go of everything, the stuff you don't like, the stuff you like. It's literally everything that you're getting ready to let go of and offer it back to this angel of death with the spirit that it was given to us. And one day we will give it all back. And so I loved that process. I loved walking up to this being who was embodying that angel of death and just looking in their eyes and really feeling a little bit of tension, like, no, I'm not ready. And then like, oh, but I also am. And then when you pass through, you walk over, and I just remember this feeling the first time that I did it of who we are when we can give up everything, when we can actually surrender and have complete gratitude for the life that we've been given. So I just remember just being like so light and like, whoa, this is what it feels like to surrender willingly as a choice. and with gratitude. And yeah, so that was my favorite part. And thank you for letting me share that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having this conversation because we experienced this. So it's bringing back those memories. And this is something can really share with somebody who wasn't there because there's this commonality of, having done, I mean, as you're talking about your experience meeting the angel of death and remembering mine and who he was and all these, it brings me back to Teo. So that is something that I share a little bit with somebody, but it doesn't have the same meaning. It's just kind of superficial. They wouldn't get it and things like that. So having this conversation so many years later, it's like, yes. And as we're getting closer also to the time of the Day of the Dead, it's like, we're in this liminal space in between. And I know that you mentioned too, like how I think for me, what it was, I think we were the youngest ones in the group. That's why we were paired up together, I think. And to me, it felt like at home because all these elders, like you said, everything was profound. There was like not any of this small world chit chat. Even the way they asked, like, "So what you had for lunch today? How do you enjoy that meal?" It was profound. It was like, and it felt like, you really opened up to explore things in a deeper way, like because there was none of this superficiality or nobody was asking you like, so, what do you do for a living? And all these like small things. It was just kind of like, how was your angel of death, like experience or like, we got to share like really soul connections. And that's why we're here, soul connections. So it felt like you said, I love it. What you said, it was a process of, it was something new, but it was also old. That instinctively in your soul, you knew how to proceed. And me as well, as I remember when you're talking about the angel of death on the first year, I remember, it's very sunny. There's like, the sun is like in your face. And I remember I always wear sunglasses but as I started my walk, my instinct take them off and make eye
Mhm.
contact with your angel of death. Although, you know what I mean? It's like everything
Mhm.
just, the energy of everything just kind of brings up the best of you and intuitively, you know what to do, without being told. Nobody tells you some of these things. It just organically happens. Yeah.
It's so well said. I agree. There was such a strong, safe container to explore whatever depths. Maybe there's one day no one's really going that deep. Maybe that's okay. And yeah, I love the way you put that.
And the other thing that makes me think about right now, like if anybody ever is interested in going to whatever, sacred site and you're doing, I'm just getting chills right now. And
Mm.
I'm thinking about sacred sites and doing ceremonies and stuff like that. The other thing, like you said, letting go is like, it's a busy place. There's a lots of people, and your mind could be, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to do this. Like people are going to be watching me and thinking, what are these crazy people doing? Like how we're humming in front of the moon temple and things like that. It's like all of that just like went out. I was like, I'm here connected to spirit, connected to the place, all these 3D world, you know, you know, judgments or whatever it is, like letting go of all of that and just be truly present there. That was something also that I've learned.
Yes, yes. Ah, that is such a good point. And that might be a part of why it was such a healing and uncovering and reawakening for me, because there has been this part that's like, what is other people going to think? And it was present a little bit in the beginning because there are tourists and there's people taking photographs as we're walking around Teotihuacan. It draws a lot of people, and it also draws people like us who are doing in ceremony on the pyramids. And yeah, it was neat to observe that part of me, but then also observe the part of me that was like, thank you, finally we get to, yeah, finally we get to explore in this way that is so new and old.
Yeah, and I also like I don't care. I just don't care. Just you're in this amazing group, in an amazing place with an amazing group of people doing such sacred work that is like, like you say, you feel safe and your soul is like guiding you. It's like, yeah, you've done this before, so what are you so worried about? Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah,
remember, yeah.
you're remembering, yes. Yeah, so yeah, that is very powerful journey. And to me, like I say, helped me. Another part that I really loved was building our own personal altars for the Day of the Dead, for
Mhm.
honoring our ancestors. And like I said, for me, it was my mom. She had passed away when I was 19. So it was really, truly very healing. And to do this in her land, she was born in Mexico. So to do
Mhm.
that in her land, her first language, my first language too, but with her ancestors, not the other way around of that we were used to, the religious way, but more of the traditional Mexican ancient ways of doing things. So that was a really amazing experience to have.
Ah, that was one of my favorite parts too, like a little bit of creativity, a lot
Mm.
of heart, and some thought about what they might want on their altars, these ancestors,
Even
how to honor them. Yeah.
Yeah, even the whole process, how we went to the other town and to the markets to get what we needed. And remember, it was so much fun because I speak Spanish, so we did other things. I was like, "Oh, let's follow me. We'll just, I got this. Let's go. Let's be, talking with the vendors and asking questions and exploring, a little bit more deeper." Uh, that the language barrier wasn't there, that allowed us to, like, really navigate and learn more about the culture and the traditions.
I had so much more fun the second year when you showed up because we got to do all that fun stuff that you described and like just hang out as people too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And do you want to shift a little bit? So that was one aspect of what we did, the Day of the Dead in Mexico, the Tehuacan. And then we also did together the Vision Quest. Yeah. Do you want to start going, talk a little bit about that process, how it was? You already shared a little bit, but do you want to talk about how that process was for you?
Sure, sure. Vision Quest happened for us in 2019. And I had been to Teo a few times already and was really craving again that container, that community, and some kind of process where I could, explore and go deep and also just sort of get some get some personal answers, get a sense of purpose. And so the first part of the process, I think you were there too the year before, where we support, yeah, and we stake. We literally drive a stake into the earth, saying, "I stake my intention to quest." And right then, after that, it's like, "Whoa, it's happening! This is so cool." And so we supported the year before, and then we become the vision fasters or the vision questers. And I really like how this group does that process because it's substance free. So it's really safe for everybody to participate who wants to, even people in recovery. And anybody doing it the first time, they only allow you to fast for the 24 hours. So in my mind, this is safe. This is a really as safe as possible, this container. And so for the year in preparation, um, we have all kinds of support. We have support people, and we have I forget what we call it, but there's just like a main support person. And I had calls with her every month just to sort of see how things were unfolding. And she taught me how to make the prayer ties. And I forget how many, it was like 400 and something. There's some specific number of prayer ties that we tie, and we put, it could be like herbs or ashes or something small of meaning. I also had cat hair from my cats at home. And so we tie them, and that goes in a circle around the space where we quest. And another part of preparation is finding the spot on this beautiful ranch. Like where do I kind of feel connected? Where do I want to sit for a while and be still and let this process unfold and connect to the land? And so I was living far away, and I remember my mentor saying, "Well, find a tree where you are. And find a tree where you are to connect to." And you know, trees have a way of communicating. Maybe there's some kind of way that you'll connect to the land as well. And so, yeah, that was a really wonderful process. And the reason that I did it was when you and I were supporting, we got to sing the song to bring people in. And people, when they come in after the vision quest, they're covered in like a scarf, or there's some kind of like fabric. Yeah. And so we're singing the song and they're coming in. And every time when the fabric was removed from their face, their eyes, I was looking at their eyes, and their eyes were just so clear and beautiful and intense and sparkling. And I was like, I want some of that. That sounds great. I'm gonna do this. Yeah, I'm like, sign me up for that. And so I had an amazing experience out there. I had I'm a kind of a Virgo, so I'm like, okay, let's be organized. I had my tent and I had my journal and I got my water and my hydration pills. And I was ready, but I got inside the tent and had my journal ready. And I'm like, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to just journal and to, produce words. I'm here to receive and surrender. And so I took a nap. I slept almost the full 24 hours out there. And it was so gentle and safe. And I remember hearing frogs and seeing fireflies. And I was under this giant oak with branches that, swooped and touched the ground. And at one point, I heard this rustling in the branch, the oak branch. And I look up and there's this hawk, this huge hawk. And it turned and looked right at me. And then it flew off, and it had, I want to say, a mouse, because I could see the little tail. It had a mouse in its talons, and it flew off. And I was just like, whoa, that happened. I was not dreaming. That happened in waking life. That was really, really cool. And then as I was sleeping, I had some other kinds of dreams that later people told me might be sort of a little bit on the psychic side, because I was just so in the strong container and tapped in. So I had some dreams about some things happening in the encampment, and with some of the other vision questers that later people told me were, kind of true or symbolic. And so I end up getting a name, because that is a part of the process. We get a nature name. We tell our story to the elders. And so, of course, I added the story of my broken leg in those 2 days of grace. And I told about the hawk and some of the other things that happened, because to me, it's all really relevant. And then at the ceremony where we get our names, my name became Hawk's Grace. And I think it comes from this encounter with the hawk, and then my experience of the 2 days of grace a few months prior. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. It takes me back to that space where we were so profound. And I resonate with what you said on the year before, when we were like supporting, and when the unveiling of the questers coming is like, yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. You said it like the eyes, but they also look like a different person
Yeah.
of who they went in. I also felt like that. I don't know, they had this serenity to their look, like, of also like they're just being downloaded with so profound wisdom, knowledge, and cosmic something. Like you said, I want some of that. Yes, it just looked really, yeah. So that was also part of, I mean, that's something that will stay with me. And even when we quested, bringing every quester, you were part of that. Like you're saying, you're like, it's a birth. It's a birth of this new person who's coming back, and just the singing, the energy, being out in nature, number one, and all these things that were allowed to happen because you're on this space. And yeah, I'm gonna share a little bit of mine. Is yeah, I didn't pick this because I lived in California at that time, and so I had my mentor, my support. You go in and scout a place for me, and he was telling me, and he found it, and it was great because it was by a pond. It was a little pond, and there were trees around, and so also I could see the sky, so it wasn't like covered. And to what happened to me, I saw a lot of dragonflies was the animal that was all around because of the pond. And also, funny, like you said, you slept and everything, like your mind plays so many tricks on you. Like I remember getting to a point, and it's only like 24 hours really, but you're like, your mind is so like, oh my gosh, I didn't have any fear for anything, and there's like, of course, wildlife and whatnot, but it was kind of like, I remember getting a headache and I've been drinking my water. I'm like, oh my God, am I hungry? Am I these? Like just kind of like starting to trip about little things like that. Like, am I gonna, I cannot give up. I cannot like, and just kind of like also going into, okay, let me lay down or try to take a nap or something, just calm myself down from my mind and just kind of questioning all these things. It's like, you're not hungry. Come on, you have plenty of reserves to go on. and so what happened to me, I laid down a lot on the land, and I was looking up, and to me what happened is like, gosh, we live in such a in this modern day society. We're always looking down on our phone, on our computers, or this or that. It's like, and when you look up, I have like the vastness of the sky, and it reminded me when I was a kid watching the clouds go by. I heard the summer beats that went by. I know you're talking about that and your dreams happened. I was like, was that like a swarm of bees that I just heard? And like I said, wait, and I was seeing all these dragonflies just flying and flying, just made me think about that. And to me, looking down, it was like you're chained to your phone, to your computer, to these, and looking up, it was like freedom because you're not focused on that technology. You're like focused with everything that is above you, and like the world that is, it's not just like in your immediate being. So my naming was Changing Wings before, because of the stories that with the dragonflies. And at that time, I remember I was the week before our vision quest, I had gone in to look for houses in Texas because I was moving, and that's the whole thing of Changing Wings came in, and then I moved in, a couple months later to Texas. And so yeah, that was a really profound experience, and to me, it really, I don't know, just connecting to the deeper intelligence of all life around us. That is, I mean, such an experience that I want more of it. And I do it, you don't have to. I mean, this was a really good, safe container preparation because you have support, but you can do this on yourself, on your own, when you go out to the forest or to the beach, like you mentioned, you can just be watching their sunset and like enjoying the solitude of you as a human, but with awareness on all living beings, how the birds, the whatever animals, they kind of like really stop for a second as the sun is going down. There's this silence of every living being just really honoring that, and then after the sun is down, it's like, okay, let's continue, So there's these deep, profound experiences that we get in nature when you are cracked open and allowing it to happen. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. I love the way you say that. Yeah, that we can just be there and be
Mm.
curious.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Oh my God, that makes me so excited. That makes me so like,
Ah,
because we're like, only these experiences can really, when you tell your story, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what Tricia's talking about. I know what happened. I know that feeling. And it just kind of really energizes you. So that's good. That's good to talk about these experiences that we had, because now I'm gonna be thinking about it, for a while. It's kind of fresh in my memory now again. And this was, like you said, 2019, so 5 years ago, pre-COVID. Yeah, time
yeah,
flies.
I feel like it is a lifetime of integrating some of these energies or some of these experiences or identities that come up in these containers.
Yes, definitely, definitely. That was, yeah. So I love this conversation, sharing these. And so now let's shift a little bit into what you're doing today. You have your therapist practice. So if you can explain to the audience, what is it that you do and what other stuff besides the gardening and stewarding your land? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, sure, yeah. So I'm licensed. I'm a licensed counselor. That's sort of the thing that I do for money. That's like my professional identity in a way. I'm also interested in so many other kinds of things that I can share too. But yeah, if I had to put it into one perspective, I hold space for people who are doing deep transformational work, but with tons of compassion. That's sort of like what I bring to the table. So I love self-compassion as taught by Dr. Kristen Neff and Dr. Chris Germer. And that's been one of my medicines, a way that I have found my way back to self-love after, a bunch of messages from people around me or from the culture that we have to, be really critical or punish ourselves. And so that's what I bring to counseling, is like this big container of compassion so that people can go deep when they're ready to go deep and do some transformational work. And woven through there are the books and the teachings of Heather Ashamara. I'm really inspired by Brene Brown, and really inspired by Carl Rogers from many decades ago. He sort of founded this way of working with people called person-centered therapy. And so if I had one theoretic home, I would probably say person-centered therapy is what I do. So right now I'm completely virtual. It's talk therapy. I might have an office one day, but since COVID and since moving around, it's just been really easy to have like a home office and work with people that want to work in that way. Maybe they're busy, or they live remotely and it's hard for them to drive into a city to have therapy. And so I do that. I also host open studios at an expressive arts studio in Burlington, Vermont. And that's every other Tuesday. And that has been so fun. I've been doing it kind of for me so that I have time to make art. I get to share a poem that I like as to kick us off. And at the end, we, share and witness in this safe container if people choose to want to talk about their process or what they created during that time, that evening, an open studio. And it's fully stocked studio, and we have a playlist, and it's fun. And yeah, I just had some training in psychedelic assisted therapy, and that has really felt like this big coming together of a lot of my interests of holding space, transformational work, nature. And so I don't have a clear path forward right now because I'm just sort of watching the legality, and I got to navigate my professional license and my professional identity. But that has been an interest of mine for the past few years. And I sort of hold that as a possibility for work in the future, and to just offer so much respect for the traditional peoples who used plant and fungi medicine in the past for their healing and their spiritual ceremonies. And like a year ago, so I'm still really new to this land in Vermont. My partner and I, we have 19 acres north of Burlington. And that has been a huge educational process for me. I'm having to, again, just go really deeper into the rhythms of nature and really understand the seasons and understand life or death. I've witnessed some life and death on the land, natural and maybe a little bit human and human caused too. And so I've had to witness that and learn that is also natural, because I grew up in a city suburbs where we wouldn't really talk about it that much, or we wouldn't have a lot of access to wild nature and to see those rhythms. And so, yeah, stewarding this land has probably been the main focus of the past year, and learning what the land wants and needs, and learning how to be in a reciprocal relationship with this really beautiful, beautiful land that I already love. And learning how to garden and learning what to do with all the vegetables, because we have a ton of vegetables. And I don't really know. I know a little bit how to cook, of course, to feed myself, but how to can and make pickles and make sauce and salsa. And so that has been a huge learning curve. And I've needed a lot of compassion, because I don't want to waste anything, but it's impossible. Like it has been impossible so far to make everything that comes out at once. So yeah, I've got a lot of things happening, and it's exciting, and I just it all kind of feeds and informs the work and my presence that I want to have and show up with for myself and others.
Wow, how wonderful. I love that about, yeah, you get to learn so much. It's like an experiment, right? You need to know a little bit of what works, and that's what, planting a garden is. It's like, okay, well, that didn't work so well. Why? Or should I continue to do that or not? And kind of what works. And then like, I love it that you're enjoying the abundance of Mother Nature, that she's giving you all these beautiful vegetables to nurture you. And yeah, it's good. And also that also brings you closer to the land, and with the cycles that you mentioned, the seasons, the moon, all of these things, you start getting into the rhythms of nature. It's like, when is the time to plant, when is the time to harvest, what's the weather patterns, or what grows in what season, especially if this being a new space for you, or something that you have not, you're farther north, so it's very different than Texas, the land and all of that. So it's fun. I mean, I love that. I love that, learning the geography of a place, the physicality, all the components of nature. And yeah, what other, I mean, 19 acres, that's huge. That's beautiful. I love it. What other plans do you have for the future of the stewarding this land? If you have anything come up to
Oh,
mind.
I've dabbled with having retreatants and retreat space. We would need to build some more structures to make it comfortable for everybody. But yeah, I'm kind of feeling into this. Do I want that? Does the land want that? And just continuing to garden. I saw a meme that said, "You don't have to be good at gardening for gardening to be good for you." Did you see that too?
That's true. I mean, I know it's like, who's it benefiting? Who's like helping whom, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, okay, I can let go of all of this pressure to do it well. It's good for me to do it and to figure things out, when to plant. So yeah, so gardening, and that's just a big metaphor for me for putting down roots and planting seeds and being intentional about what I want to harvest later. And yeah, and maybe the possibility of holding some retreats there. We did a women's retreat on the land. It was 2 nights and it was so wonderful. I felt like the land held me too in this container. So that's a possibility. I'm also okay with it not turning into a retreat space and just being a sanctuary for me. And whenever you want to come visit too, Teresa, I'd love to have you. And we'll see how it unfolds. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds so dreamy. And just so you can share with the audience, but I know a
Yeah.
little bit, could you tell who are the natives from this area, that this land, and how what ways did you connect it to the land, to like listen to what it wants to be, or how it wants to be steward, or the different I know you have a pond and so many maple trees. Anything that you can share about how you connected to the land once you came the steward right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't see this before I bought the house, but maybe it was a few days after we bought the house and the land. My partner and I were walking down a path through the maple forest, and he saw this very, very big, I want to say it's a birch tree. It's the biggest birch tree I've ever seen. So it's very old, whatever this tree is. And in the roots, so there's roots along the ground, and encircled in the roots was this circle that I now call the goddess circle. And I could tell that somebody, probably the previous owner, had tended this space. There was candle wax and rocks and shells, and it just looks like there were offerings, and a lot of the leaves and forest debris was just sort of swept away from this one particular space. And so I thought, wow, I don't know what this is yet, but I can just kind of keep it clear. So I did that for a few months, just sort of like swept the leaves off and I would visit the tree and visit the circle. And then I started leaving rocks and I started leaving flowers. And then I just started to sense and feel into what would, like a prayer, or what would it feel like to be in relationship to the land, and how could I talk to the land and listen to the land. And to answer your original question, it's the Abenaki people, Abenaki, who were the original peoples of this land, at least from our understanding of history. And there's tribes that are still around. I think there's a larger one in New York, so just right over the Vermont border. And so one of my prayers is thanking the stewards and thanking the known and unknown guardians of this land, and asking to be in reciprocal relationship with the guardians and with the land. And sometimes that is my only prayer, and I go about my day. And sometimes I will spend some time being quiet and still in the way that I have been taught from Vision Quest and from other experiences in my life. So I'll just be quiet in that space, and sort of this way that I do it is I just say, okay, I'm ready to receive, or I have some version of that. And so I listen, and I might see wind through the trees, or I might see bugs. And if I stay longer out there, I start to kind of sink into what I call like vision space. I don't know what it's actually called, but I just sort of feel like I did when I was on the Vision Quest. And yeah, so that's the beginning of, for me, the way to connect with this land, with a humble heart, and a desire to be in reciprocal relationship. And there might be more unfolds, but that's sort of the most respectful way that I can come up with, and the most just most natural or makes sense way that I can come up with right now. And if I uncover more, or if I discover more practices, maybe I'll flow into that. But yeah, right now that has made sense, and I have felt connected.
That's beautiful, and that is perfect, and I love it. I know I can see your energy, your love for this land, for yourself, and how it's a reciprocal benefit. It brings you peace, nurturance, and vice versa. Now you're the steward of this land, and it's a beautiful relationship. You just, birthing new things in connection with this land. So I love that, and I can't wait to go there. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
the biggest compliment I received from one of the people that came on the retreat was like, "Oh, this land feels like you, feels like your energy." Whoa, thank you.
That's how you
Hey.
know you're home. You're home. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Very, very, very happy for you. So if you want to share with the audience a little bit of where they can find you, your website or social media. So if they want to, reach out to you, if anybody listening here would like to work with you.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to work with anybody interested in either just talking or having a deep transformational experience. If you have something that you want to release, or some story that you're working with that's just is sticky, we can walk together. So JillianWiinters.com. So my first name and my last name, that's a website. And I also have another website for like medicine journeys. So people that want to integrate after an experience with either like a medical trauma, like I had with my broken leg, or if they've already experienced something with psilocybin or ayahuasca or DMT or some substance, and they had an experience and they just want to make sense of it. I offer that work too. And that's at innerresourcecollective.com. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Inner Resource Collective, at Inner Resource Collective. And maybe you'll be posting that stuff. Yeah, that'll all be included in the links. And I, yeah, just love to connect with you. And yeah, the Instagram will have pictures from my land. So if you're curious about what it looks like, and it will have offerings for either art or coaching work or licensed counselor work.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful. And that will be posted below the video. So you can just click and go and find Jillian. And thank you so much. Before we close, I just want to give you the space if you would like to share some message with the audience, some words of wisdom, or whatever you feel called to.
Oh, that's so sweet. I want to express my gratitude to you for holding this space, doing the ceremonies that you do. Powerful stuff that I've experienced. And I guess the only thing that's really coming to mind right now is a quote from Ram Dass, who said something like, "We are all walking each other home." And I really like that perspective, because we don't have to do it alone. We can be connected with other people, and nobody has the answers. We're all walking each other home. Thank you.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. And that's why like such a beautiful connection with us. So many years later, here we're still connected even through the virtual world, but we have one heart. We know what we've been, what we share, our shared experiences, and following each other on our beautiful walking each other home. And I've seen you land in your home, and it's like it's wonderful. And like the first thing you say today, like the bear, I'm like, yeah, California, my home, you know.
You are home. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting, like you said, I've gone also full circle. I was born in California, lived in different places, but ultimately home was calling me home. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, California it is. For me, it's an interesting connection. So it's great. So, well, thank you so much, Jillian, for sharing your space, for sharing your experiences, or share experiences, and sharing your beautiful land and your stewardship and the beautiful work that you're doing in this world. I appreciate you, Mariposa.
Colibri, appreciate you too. So good to be with you today.
Yeah, well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye.